It is not often. I've been doing fantasy football a long time, and I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen a request from the White House saying, like, hey, somebody wants to talk about fantasy football. But that is what happened as Doug Emhoff, Mr. Second Gentleman, is joining us here on the Happy Hour to talk about his 30-year fantasy football team. I was amazed to find out you've been playing for 3 decades. So, Mr. Second Gentleman, first off, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And secondly, tell me a little bit about this league. Who's in this league that's been in a league with you for 30 years?
Hey, Matthew. So great to be here. It's a real honor. So this league actually started in 1989, believe it. It was stemmed out of my law school classmates and some guys from my first law firm. And so we each had our own league, and we merged it, I think, probably in 90 or 91. So we've been together all these years. It's pretty much the same owners the entire time, and we've taken the whole ride from somebody had to look in the paper on Monday or Tuesday and do the stats to a stats service where we get faxed the information, and then finally we were able to go online about 10 or 12 years ago. The league has been going on so long that now my son who's now 28, has been my partner for 7 or 8 years. Some of the other owners have their now teenager, 20-plus-year-old sons involved. So it's just been great to be able to do this over the years. The amount of smack talk is epic, and now that I'm in this position, they don't care. I mean, it's still the same amount of abuse that you would get in a normal fantasy league, and now my team is just out there for everyone to see.
All right, so hang on. So I have lots of questions about this. So first off, let's nerd out for 1 second. Like, how many teams are in the league? Are you guys PPR? Like, the scoring, just real quickly. Let's nerd out and just talk about what the league specifics are here for 1 second.
Yeah, 12 teams, 3 divisions of 4 teams.
Okay.
And we do playoffs. It's PPR, and there's one quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a flex, a defense, and a kicker, and I think 6 or 7 bench players. And now we have a reserve. This has been every rule change over the years it's a bunch of lawyers basically. So every rule change has been highly litigated. We've had commissioners who last for 8 or 9 years and resign in a huff because of all the hoo-ha whenever we need to make a change. There's a trophy that's the same trophy for almost 30 years. There's a trophy presentation. It's very similar to a lot of leagues out there.
I think it sounds like it's very similar to a lot of leagues, except for the fact that one of the people in the league actually has an office at the White House. So I mean, let's it is a slightly different league there, Mr. Second Gentleman. Okay, so I appreciate that. By the way, you mentioned you play with a kicker. I realize it's a highly litigated league there, but I'm a big ban kickers thing. I don't know, as the administration is considering legislation throughout the term, could you think about banning kickers in fantasy football? Could you just kind of slide that one in just in the middle of some bill somewhere, see if we could get that through?
No. It's so funny because every year somebody will pick a kicker way too early, and there's just lots of discussion about it. So I'm in just get someone right at the end. That person's getting dropped no matter what, and we'll just pick someone right back up. So for me, we have Suck Up. He's been pretty good, but as soon as the Bucks have a break, we'll find someone else, plug them in, and keep rolling.
There you go. That is the way you roll with kickers. You are obviously a very experienced manager. By the way, I should mention this. You don't want to brag, but I will. I looked at your team standings. You're 4-0. You're undefeated. You actually have a better record than your Giants, who are 3-1. So it's been a good year in your household here. But I want to go back to something you said in your initial answer here. You said the trash talk is epic. And so I'm curious about that, because I would hate to be in a league with you, because I would think it would be impossible to trash talk you, because as somebody that has been in the political arena, right, and for years and years and years, what could be said to you that hasn't been said? There is no more worse discourse than political rhetoric on every side of the aisle. So what could be said to you that you're that's nothing? Do you see what, I'm curious how somebody would possibly trash talk you and your son.
There's nothing worse when you leave someone on your bench that scores 30 points
Yeah.
and you lose that week. So it's the same typical fantasy stuff. They stay away from politics. These are all people that I've known for 30 plus years. And, I've known them through thick and thin. We work together. So they kind of allow me this space to just do something that's, kind of from my old life, and that's still pretty normal. And so it's 95%, just same old stuff, but football related.
Well, and I bet that's one of the reasons why you love the league so much, is because so much of your life these days is public and scrutinized in so many ways, and there's so many demands on your time and your family's time and attention, that it's probably very nice to have something that you do with your son, and that's with guys that you've known for 30 years, that have known you since you were some dumb kid in college, in law school, and they've seen you grow up in your career as you have them, and so there's probably a sense of normalcy to this fantasy league.
It really is, and to do it with my son Cole, it's so special for dads out there. You just want to be able to have that time with my now adult son, and now time, as you mentioned, Matthew, is at a premium. And there's so many demands, and sometimes it's just so hard to be able to see each other in person. So when we're able to pick our lineups and watch the games together by FaceTime, and we're texting each other, right down to the end. And a couple of weeks ago, we were in a game where if Debo had scored, he got stopped at the goal line, we might have lost and not been undefeated. So to be able to just go through this, every week, pick our team. And then, of course, we're able to then, hey, now that I got you, let's talk about some other stuff. And it's just been an amazing thing to be able to have this league with these old friends of mine, and then to do it with my son. It's just, as you said, it's just so special.
I always love, I talk a lot about fantasy being a way that it keeps friends together, it brings families together, and so you're the living embodiment of that. I mean, my book was all about that as well. I play in a league with my family. I play in a league that's 30 plus years of all my buddies from college, so it's really, and we do a bunch of work leagues as well. I'm in a bunch of leagues with my old colleagues at my old job as well, so it's been a way to keep in touch with them as I've moved over here to NBC. So it's been it is really a great connective issue, and so it's a connective tissue, I should say, and it's great to hear that that's been your experience as well. Let's talk a little bit about this 4-0 team. Lamar Jackson is your quarterback there. You have Eckler and Chubb. You went heavy on the Ravens, so you stacked Jackson and Mark Andrews, which I like. You also have Devin Duvernay on the bench as well. Like, is this because Baltimore is close to where you're living these days, or just best player available? And it's just how that worked out. Was that a strategy going in, or?
Being here, I definitely have kind of adopted the Ravens, as one of the teams I really like, just being here in the area. And we also, last few years, our team did not do as well because we just did not have a great quarterback. So we were in that, let's just wait to the end and we'll pick someone that's fine, and it just didn't work. So we went for Lamar early. We went for Andrews early. I will say we had the number 2 pick, and we took Eckler because we had CMC, I think, 2 years in a row. And I don't think we wanted to go through whether he got hurt or not. So it was between Eckler and Henry, and because of the LA connection and rooting for the Chargers, we said, you know what, let's take a shot. He's been good. I think he's getting better, and the Ravens defense has been a real surprise. I mean, they're just getting after it. They're scoring points. So, and it's fun to watch because here there's Ravens games on every weekend, so I can just watch pretty much half my team real time, and then texting Cole because he doesn't get those games.
Right. I mean, I sort of feel like, I got to be honest with you, I sort of feel like you probably could get more than just local TV. I mean, I don't know what's going on at the Naval Observatory, but I feel like you could probably send an email or something like that. They could probably figure out a way to get it into the vice president's house. I just something to think about there maybe for next week. Mr. Second Gentleman, let's talk here a little bit. So it's interesting, like you're obviously a very experienced fantasy manager, just listening to you talk. I'm just curious who's doing the heavy lifting in terms of the research here? Do you because I'll be honest with you. So on your personal Twitter, I went through and I noticed you don't follow any fantasy analysts or really a lot. You don't follow a lot of sports people either. It's obviously very political in terms of who you follow and also people from your life. And so my question was, are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading? Is Cole doing a lot of the heavy lifting? How do you research your draft and your weekly starting lineups?
Yeah, all. I don't have a lot of, as you said, Twitter's not really where I find it. Cole does a lot. I do a lot. I'm busy doing this job. So to the extent I have the time, but Cole, he's kind of an equal division of labor. And frankly, he's really stepped up and has done more because he knows I'm busy and I'm traveling. But yeah, it's you, it's your podcast, it's the websites, it's, watching some of the morning shows all throughout the country. I like the local broadcasters in the various cities so you can really hear what's going on with teams. And so I'm doing all of that, or I get up really early. I make a big pot of coffee and I kind of get ready for my day, including, but not limited to, my fantasy team, and in addition, all the other stuff I have to do. And it's good because, again, it gets Cole and I to have a conversation about it during the week. And then we get in trade proposals. And now that our team is doing great, oh, you pick so-and-so. We need, so we're getting these ridiculous trade proposals, all of which were not fair to us. So we have turned them all down. So, it's a little bit of everything.
Which is awesome. And I always talk about that. That's one of the reasons why it's so great. I mean, my oldest son, he's graduated college. He lives out of the house, but because we play fantasy, same thing as it sounds like with you and Cole, is it gives us an excuse to talk and connect every week and something to, people always get busy. And so, but like we're forced to have conversations because we've got to figure out who are we making bids on, who are we starting, and we got to consider this trade proposal, et cetera, which is great.
And now we're accountable to each other too, because he's got his career going. Yeah. I'm busy. And it's not like, hey, Dad, maybe the first year or two, he just, he was younger and he was really relying on me to do it. And now we're kind of accountable to each other on this. And it's really cool. And now we've got the vice president very interested in, oh, you're talking to Cole about your family. Oh, that's so great. And so she's now, piped in on the team and, oh, you're foreign. Oh my God. So it's kind of fun now with her, and she's a big football fan. She loves the Niners.
Yep.
So she's definitely into it. And so it's nice to have her involved too.
Yeah, that's no question. It becomes sort of a family affair. And that's one of the brilliant things about fantasy football. I'm curious because, so you mentioned the vice president. Obviously, Mr. Second Gentleman, you have been in so many interesting places, right? Whether it is the Senate, whether it is ceremonies for foreign dignitaries, whether it is the White House, right? The inauguration, et cetera. Where's the weirdest place you've done something fantasy football related whether Cole has texted you or we've got to make a lineup change, or suddenly somebody's randomly inactive and you got to do so. So where's the weirdest place that you've had to do a fantasy football move during your career?
There's been many a time when it's during the week. Now that the games are during the week, if
Sure.
I'm doing something on a Thursday, and with our time difference, I may be at some event where I have to say, excuse me, I need to take a break. I need to do this important phone call. And it's like, Cole, change the lineup.
Right.
Because I'm at a reception for so-and-so. So I've done it. I've been on planes where I didn't have reception, where I'm starting to look around. I've been in overseas. I've been all over the world, all over the place. And you have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to each other, but also to the league, because there's
Sure.
nothing that annoys our league more than if you don't make a change and someone else can win. And that's like this competitive advantage. And we take that very seriously. So even if I'm 3-9 and it's over, you better have that lineup set. And so we take it very seriously.
1,000%, by the way. You play with integrity, which I admire and appreciate. You mentioned planes, have you ever made a lineup move or even like a call to Cole on Air Force One or Air Force Two? Have you ever done a fantasy move specifically on Air Force One or Two?
No comment.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Is there? I want to dive into this a little bit more, just because you're such a unique fantasy manager, given your job here. I would assume that once the election happened, that, or maybe even before, right? Once Ms. Harris was named the vice presidential nominee, my expectation is that you guys go through insane security clearances, that there's all sorts of, I've never been in a situation like that, but my assumption is that anyone that's running for, the highest political office goes through unbelievable security checks and balances, everything like that. And so they're going through your phones and your emails and everything like that. And like, do you have to then put, and they're like, what is this? And you're like, that's my dumb fantasy league trash talk. Did you have to explain, like, I'm sorry, we're haggling over a second string tight end. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, like, you have to.
So a lot of that, there is a lot of scrutiny, and you basically realize you go from a private life and a private person to a public life and a public person, including your fantasy team. And so I think there was probably more of a discussion. Hey, I'm still doing this. Like, this gets grandfathered in. This league has been 30 years. These are my buddies, and this is going to still happen, kind of thing. And but it's it's really, again, with all the things you're talking about, how your life changes, and a lot of it's great. I mean, it's pretty amazing experience. But to be able to have the same thing, same group of guys, with now the kids in for all these years, and it's the same. And that's what is so great about it.
Last question for me. You guys are 4-0. What's your team name, real quickly?
Nirvana.
All right. There you go.
Named after the band. I was a big fan of Nirvana back in the early 90s, and I changed my team name from whatever to Nirvana in 93, I guess, and 30 years later, it's still my team name.
I love it. Maybe make the avatar the little baby swimming from the album cover. But here's my question. So your team Nirvana, you guys are 4-0. You're undefeated. You've got Eckler, you've got Lamar Jackson, you've got Nick Chubb, you've got Mark Andrews. You've got a really strong team. If this team ends up taking the title and bringing home the trophy for you and your son Cole, you know how, like, the White House will always host, like, the Super Bowl champion and the World Series champion, and, will you host your fantasy team at the White House for a trophy celebration? Will you, like Lamar Jackson and, like, Austin Eckler suddenly, and Devin Duvernay suddenly get, Ryan Suckup get invites to the White House, and you present them with, like, trophies from Team Nirvana? Will you do that? Will you consider that?
That'd be awesome. I actually invited the team. So we do this trophy presentation. It's been on Zoom the last couple of years, but I promised that the owners of the league that if I won this trophy, somehow, some way, made it all the way through, I was going to invite them to the White House, and we do this trophy celebration here in D.C. Now, if we can add some of the stars from my team, that would be amazing. So.
Yeah, I don't know who's turning down a trip to the White House as well. And I mean, listen, I'll come and present the trophy to you if you want. Like, listen,
that's a deal.
They're fantastic. Well, listen, Mr. Second Gentleman, this is absolutely a pleasure. So thank you so much for being an advocate, a public advocate for fantasy football. The more people, the more prominent people that are talking about how great this game is and how it brings families together, the better. So appreciate your time, and best of luck to you and Cole the rest of the season.
Thank you, Matthew. We're all big fans, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.